Hey there, everybody. Flame here. So this video is for Nvidia users only. So if you're not an Nvidia user, click off the video, please. I will hopefully by maybe mid 2019 have a AMD card to give you AMD tips on how to optimize OSU gameplay for AMD, because I think that would be neat. So right off the bat, if you have an Nvidia GPU, you can go here and right click on your desktop and go to the Nvidia control panel. And the first thing that you are going to want to adjust is use advanced 3D image settings. Now, I'm going to explain later what this is going to do, but essentially, this is all your custom settings, and since I already did that, I'm going to cancel that. But then here we go to Manage 3D Settings. Now, all of these, by default, are on. Almost every single one of these are on, and you can't really change anything about it. But that is okay, because there are easy ways to change this, and I'm going to show you right now. Essentially, all this stuff that's on right now is a bottleneck and causes more input lag because OSU doesn't use any of these. So what I'm going to show you right now is once you're in Manage 3D Settings, you go to Program Settings. Now, if you do not see OSU in this list, you can hit Add, and you can add a different program. It may take a bit, but you can search through and you can find whatever game you have on here, and it'll help. So once you find OSU, select OSU. Now, if you go down here, you will notice some of these settings here that I have off. One, you do not need anisotropy. I don't know how to pronounce it, whatever. Filtering. You don't need that. You can just hit off. As for anti-aliasing and gamma correction, off and off. You don't need those because OSU does not use anti-aliasing. Now, for the third anti-aliasing setting, override any application setting. That's what you want to have on here. You want to have override any application setting on. Now, when you go down to CUDA GPUs, if this is only if you have more than one GPU, you can have the option to have all your frames be rendered using 2 GPUs. But if you don't have 2 GPUs, then just leave this setting off. Maximum pre-rendered frames is actually one huge benefit that when you put this down to 1, it means it's only, since OSU only has one hit circle that it is rendering per frame, really all you're getting is just one hit circle. And sometimes, yes, it is multiple on the screen at the same time, but really, you only want it to be rendering one of those circles at a time. You don't want it to be rendering more than one at a time, because that's just useless information that's being spat out by your GPU, causing more input lag. As for OpenGL rendering, you can leave this on auto select, and power management, you want to have this on maximum performance, which you can toggle on here back into the global settings tab, and you can put on prefer maximum performance. Now that we have those settings out of the way, we have to talk about some of the OSU settings. So when you first open OSU, by the way, skin link in the description. Now, yours may differ from mine, but I get about 1 millisecond of input lag on the menu. But typical average is about, I'd have to say, 4 to 5 milliseconds. If you're anywhere over that, then you probably have a lot of things that are holding you back. One, check every release of OSU in the options menu. Whatever one is on here performs best for you, stay on it. 2, I'm using VSync because I can't use unlimited gameplay. And if you're asking why this says 1000 FPS here, I'll tell you later. But basically, this is what makes it so that your GPU is not, if you only have a 60 hertz monitor and you don't have that refresh rate, essentially what you're doing is you're just bottlenecking your GPU again. And it's trying to shove out all these frames, and you're going to get tearing, which actually can technically make you worse at the game because all those, your cursor feels choppy around the screen. I can demonstrate this now by doing it myself. It's so choppy and so unstable that I can't even look. But when I put VSync on, I don't see any choppiness in my cursor whatsoever when I try to go through. Now, some of the settings that you should have on while you're playing OSU. Show FPS counter. This will tell your input lag down in the corner. If your input lag is 4, don't worry about it. We're changing that later. Now, your resolution may vary upon monitor to monitor. Some people are using laptops which use 1336 by 768. And if you're on a laptop that's Nvidia, I would highly recommend getting a desktop because your laptop is giving you major input lag issues, as known by a friend of mine who has the issue where he has a laptop and it is giving him input lag issues more or less than he would want to. Now, these are just optional. If you want to shut these off, that's on you. If you want to leave them on, that's on you also. These just make the game look fancy and feel fancy. And some skins even have built-in things for shading and some other stuff on here. But since you're really going for performance here, and that's the reason why you clicked on this video, I would go ahead and just toggle all of these off. Next, if you want to have better performance, you will see menu snow here. Menu snow takes up a ton of your performance. So shut that off and leave that setting off. You do not see here, it made my input lag jump up there to 5 milliseconds. That is something that you do not want. So next, you can just leave all these on here. And if you have a custom skin, you can set this to never, because I would assume that you have a custom skin, then you would probably have supporter and you would also have a neat background like mine. Now, if you're just getting into the game, I would highly recommend this setting right here called background dim. Crank that sucker all the way to 100% and leave it there. Leave it, do not touch it, do not enable that setting there, and good. Now, if you're worried about your performance on OSU, you can actually tell if you are under tapping or over tapping simply by making the bar as big as possible. But some people don't like to do that, so a medium would be about 1.5, and that would be about where you would want to see it. Now, if you're a streamer and you're just starting to stream OSU, another setting I would highly induce and recommend is always show key overlay, because when you're tapping, the key count will show in the corner. And that is something that you would definitely want if you were streaming. Now, as for audio, when you first get OSU, everything is at 100%. You can't change that. You think you can't change that anyway. So roughly what you want to do here is you want to just, find a medium. Because for me, I like to have my music louder than my effects, but it'll vary for you what you can go ahead and figure that out for you. You want more music, or do you want more hit sound effect for your skin? That's you. Something that you definitely want to do, though, is ignore beatmap hit sounds, because beatmap hit sounds actually make it different. Some maps have custom hit sounds, and those, although they are cool, they can sometimes mess you up. As for the offset, you probably never want to change this, and you always want to leave this on 3. And if you're just coming into the game and you're using this skin, download a new one immediately. Could download mine in the description if you really want to. Orange Penguin V3, which is currently in 3.2 as of now. And another thing you can do also is ignore all beatmap skins. Use the skin sound samples so it doesn't take default ones. And find a cursor size. You can go anywhere from 1 pixel all the way up to ginormous. I found a medium at around 1.4. Sensitivity. Now, here's something that a lot of people have issues with, and that's kind of to be expected because most people don't really know how to change this when they first get the game, or they just don't like to change it. So basically, raw input is something that makes it so that you are getting the full raw input of any device that you're getting. So the full 1 millisecond all the time of your USB 3.0, and if you have 2.0, then it's 2 milliseconds all the time. And that's pretty much to be expected. So you want to have raw input on, and you want to have absolute raw input in the OSU window. And if you're using a tablet that you set up custom area or custom drivers on, this is probably what you'll see. Your cursor will not want to move from the other side of the screen, and it'll just want to stick there forever if you're using raw input. But if you're lucky enough, then you can leave on raw input and everything will be fine. It actually gives you a much smoother experience, and that's really all I can recommend. And if you are using a tablet, always disable mouse wheel and always disable mouse buttons. You do not need those on. That is, unless you're Amelia and you are a tablet-only player. Next things you do not need on are OSU tablet support and Wii Remote. Those are off by default. And we already went over these animations here. You can get rid of background video, always use default skin, hit animations, follow points, and stacking. You can all shut that off. These are custom privacy settings. I honestly don't know what you need to do to fix that, but we're going to get into that now. So, you know how I was just saying down in the corner, as you can see, my input lag is unbelievably low, and I'm using a Intel Core i5 4570 with a GTX 660 Ti and 8 gigabytes of dual channel RAM, and I am still getting this low of input latency. And I have like 5 to 6 year old hardware at this point, I would say. And a lot of people would probably wonder how I do that. Well, it's actually pretty much as simple as just editing a couple of things in the OSU file. So hopefully by now, you would have your OSU icon directly on the desktop like most of us do. And if you don't, what are you doing? Just get OSU, right-click on it, hit Open File Location, and look for your name with your OSU file here. So as you can see, this is my user right here, and I'm going to open it, and we are going to look for the custom. So you want to do is you want to hit Control F on your keyboard, and you want to find custom. Now, this will vary from computer to computer, but you want to hit custom, and you want to change this variable. By default, it is set to 240 FPS, but if you want a better experience, I would recommend setting this to around 2000, because 2000 is about where it maxes out, and your input latency will just be pretty low. Now, another thing you can do is if your PC kind of sucks, this is a little cheat that you can do. You can set this interval here to 1, and it will make it so that every graphics setting is just disabled by default. And that is something that most people don't even know about. And here, down here, you can see refresh rate. Refresh rate is the refresh rate of your monitor. As for example, I'm using a 75 hertz monitor, so I will have a 75 hertz refresh rate. I don't recommend changing this because OSU sets it to 60, but if you are experiencing more input lag issues due to your refresh rate, you can always change that to whatever number your monitor's refresh rate is. And that's really about it. That's all you really need to change in the OSU settings, guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope please leave a like on this video if it helped with your input lag issues, and see you next time.